everybody now. John Walsh is director of the HathiTrust Research Center. John is going to talk to a couple different projects that are underway at HathiTrust. I'm going to totally mispronounce the acronym, so I'm not even going to try. SCWARED and TORCHLITE as two examples of things that are going on at Hathi. So John, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. I will share my slides. And do you see those?
Looks good.
You look good.
Okay. Thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be here. Here's briefly what I'll be talking about. Brief overview of the HathiTrust Digital Library, then the Research Center where I am based, and about our organization, some of our tools and services, and then these two projects you mentioned. We pronounce that SCWARED squared. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's how we do it. The Digital Library, many of you may be familiar with. It's a nonprofit membership organization founded in 2008. It's based at the University of Michigan, and there are over 160 members of the HathiTrust Digital Library serving 220 campuses. And the mission is to support teaching, learning, and scholarship by operating a large-scale digital library. The map shows the location of the members. HathiTrust is unlike many other similar organizations, and that the library it operates is not a subscription database. The mission is also different from organizations like the Internet Archive or Project Gutenberg. HathiTrust has its roots in Google Books, but it's an example of libraries banding together to build infrastructure for a shared cause. It's non-commercial and non-governmental and welcomes input from its member community. HathiTrust balances preservation with access by operating a preservation repository of digitized content and providing access to all the content it's legally able to via the digital library website. The library was built primarily through mass digitization, which is an approach to scanning at scale. Books and book-like objects are scanned shelf by shelf with little to no decision-making about whether to scan individual items. All told, to amass the HathiTrust collection took more than 3 billion page turns by thousands of scanning staff over the last 12 years or more. And sometimes you can see artifacts of this labor in the scans, like these examples where the scanner caught the hands of the page turner. The collection contains over 17 million items digitized at member libraries, which are academic and research libraries, and content is added daily. With such a large body of materials, there are discrete sub-collections such as U.S. federal government documents and all of the items in the Scripps Institute of Oceanography at UC San Diego. The content ranges from the very old to the contemporary, with items dating to the 1500s and a concentration in the 20th century. The predominant language in HathiTrust is English, but the chart on the right shows the way that share of English in the collection has gone down over time. And you see in the graph on the left, the concentration of items in the 20th century. About 40% of the collection is public domain, 60% still in copyright. Overall, the collection mirrors the print collections from which it was scanned. which are primarily large, well-resourced academic libraries. This means that library acquisition and publishing patterns have an impact on the kinds of materials you'll find in HathiTrust. For example, you're likely to find many editions of Pride and Prejudice. You're less likely to find popular fiction, such as romance novels. HathiTrust follows many library conventions in how it describes and displays the material in the repository. And this means there are certain aspects of the infrastructure and practices that are very library-like and occasionally make it challenging to approach the repository as a data source. And these are just some examples of some of the items among the 17 million that you might find in the library. The HathiTrust Research Center serves our parent organization, the HathiTrust Digital Library, and the membership. And our mission is to enable and support the computational analysis of the HathiTrust corpus by developing and maintaining secure computational environments, tools for text data mining and non-consumptive research, data sets derived from the HT corpus, and outreach and education services. I'll unpack that term, non-consumptive research. That relates to the 60% of the content that is under copyright, and that involves research that can be done on that copyrighted material that doesn't involve reading it word for word in ways that would violate copyright. Our audience is the worldwide research community, particularly the subset of that community represented by the HathiTrust membership. Most of the tools and services we offer are available to everyone free of charge, regardless of membership status. There are a small number of services that are reserved for HathiTrust members. How the Research Center is organized, we have these three main operational units that work very closely together: outreach and education, cyber infrastructure and operations, and research support services. We're based at Indiana University, where I'm a professor in the I School here, the Luddy School of Informatics, Computing, and Engineering, with partners at University of Illinois and University of Michigan. Co-director is Stephen Downey, who is in the I School at Illinois. So our outreach and education services, each of these three units has an associate director in charge of it. This group does general communication, promotion, outreach, in-person and virtual workshops, testing, documentation of new tools, various help services, online office hours, user group meetings, an advanced collaborative support program, which provides more focused research assistance. I'll talk more about that in a bit. And data capsule export reviews. I'll talk about our data capsule in a bit, but because of the copyrighted content, when researchers have access to that in our secure data capsule and they want to release research results, those data that they want to get out of that secure environment have to be reviewed to be sure they don't violate our non-consumptive research policy and respect the copyright. Cyber infrastructure group is responsible for our production services, security, authentication, and user management, maintaining the data capsules and our web-based services, implementation of new tools and services. We have a complete copy of the full text of the HathiTrust corpus here at Indiana. and Michigan has their copy. So there are a lot of security considerations that go along with having that full copy of the data. Our research support services group, they do text data mining research with this particular focus on non-consumptive research. They develop new tools, experimental tools that may make their way into the production cyber infrastructure environment. They develop new data sets. They support researchers that we work at different institutions, and work with the outreach and education team in providing support for this advanced collaborative support program. This is the main access point for our tools and services, with web-based analytic tools, our data sets, and the data capsule secure computing environment. I'll start with the web-based tools. Here's an interactive word frequency tool showing the frequency of burned versus burnt throughout the collection over time. Another example of the same tool being used by Samuel Franklin from Brown University in a project mapping the increasing use and shifting meanings of the words creative and creativity, with a particular focus on the 20th century. We have a web-based topic modeling tool, word frequency, tag cloud tool, named entity recognition. All these examples are from the 48 volumes of Sir Walter Scott's Waverley novels. And all those web-based tools, they've been around for a while with us, with HTRC, and except for Bookworm, that first one, they're not interactive. And you submit a job, and then sometime later you get an email saying your results are ready, and then you can go download your results. And there are limitations and problems with that approach. You know, it's not as useful in a classroom environment, for instance, when you can't interact with it immediately and you have to wait for results coming in later over email. And some of those limitations are things we're trying to address in some current projects. The extracted features data set is a really exciting service that we offer. It's data, non-consumptive data on the full 17 million volume collection. So there is volume and page level metadata for the whole collection. You have metadata like title, publisher, publication date, and so on. And then for every page, you have every word on the page and the number of times it occurs. So you can't read the page because you don't know the order the words are in, but you know every word that was on the page, and that allows many types of full text analysis without violating copyright. So this gives you a kind of digital fingerprint of every page in the 17 million volumes. This is just the documentation for that extracted features data set. There's other information in there, part of speech information, language information, and so on. The data capsule is a secure computing environment where you can access the copyrighted content and do, it's a Linux virtual machine where you can install your own software libraries and do whatever you can do in a Linux environment for your own text analysis. But this is more suited to advanced users that are comfortable with the command line and Linux and can do their own text analysis programming. The Advanced Collaborative Support Program I mentioned before, we've done 5 rounds of this since 2015 and supported 26 projects, 41 researchers from 24 institutions. We do a call for proposals review those and select people to award extra support to. There's typically not a monetary award, just longer term support from our team on their research projects. And these are some examples of some of those projects: building large scale collections of genre fiction, deriving basic illustration metadata, the computational history of the US novel 1950 to 2000. And now I get to these two very current active projects. The SCWAReD project, funded by the Mellon Foundation, will advance the mission of HTRC by providing scholar-curated work sets and illustrative reusable models of our research, with an emphasis on content related to historically under-resourced and marginalized textual communities. So we have a flagship project from our co-PI, Dr. Mary Emma Graham at Kansas, a project on the history of Black writing. And then through the ACS program I just mentioned, we recruited 4 additional teams. So these are the full, with our flagship project on history of Black writing, the other projects: mining the Native American authored works in HathiTrust, the Black Fantastic, curated vocabularies, artifact analysis and identification, creating period-specific work sets. A work set is a synonym for collection for us, for Latin American fiction, and the National Negro Health Digital Project, recovering and restoring a Black public health corpus. So these are exciting set of projects led by experts in the content, and with the support from Mellon. Unlike other previous ACS projects, these were awarded a monetary award along with the extended support relationship with HathiTrust Research Center to do their work. And these research models that they're producing, they create a work set of volumes related to their research topic. They're writing scholarly introductions to the work set that address topics like historical and cultural context, scope, significance, research questions, and potential audiences for the work set. And we envision these introductions as something that could be assigned along with the data in a classroom or workshop environment. So people don't just get the data set, but an expert introduction to why these volumes of text are significant. Then with our help, they do analysis on the work set. From that, there may be additional data sets derived from the full text content, geospatial data, named entities, specialized vocabularies. Those will be documented with README files. And then there'll be a concluding project report that summarizes the overall project at the end. We'll combine all these materials. We're thinking now in a GitHub site, so people can go to that site for the work set and get the content, the introduction, the derived data sets, and the project report to try and replicate results or do their own research with this content, or maybe follow this model with a different set of content. Then the other project that's currently underway, TORCHLITE, Tools for Open Research and Computation with HathiTrust, Leveraging Intelligent Text Extraction. I talked about that extracted features data set, which is one of the most powerful tools we offer, but it's not particularly usable right now. It's a big data set you download and work with on your own. Part of TORCHLITE, the initial part, is building an API to access that data. So you can point a URL with a HathiTrust volume ID or a array of IDs for a collection and get back extracted features for just that volume or that collection. or access specific features like title or publication date. And building on that API, then we'll build an interactive data dashboard with interactive widgets for visualizing and analyzing the data. As we saw with the previous presentation, we can use the API to build Jupyter notebooks for other types of analysis. And also, like, Nathan was talking about in the last talk, we don't want to just build the API and build these things and give them to people. We want to enable people to use the API for their own research in ways we may not have envisioned. So we'll be holding some public events to do outreach to the research and development communities to work with us in developing and extending the API and encouraging people to build their own widgets and notebooks and so on to use the API to do other kinds of text data mining and data science research. This project just started in the last 12 months. The NEH award, I should have this on the slide. It's funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities, and that started January 1. We have our database up and running. These are a couple quick and dirty widgets we built, word frequency tag cloud using the API, pie chart of parts of speech in on a page in a volume. So that's a quick whirlwind through HTRC and a couple current projects, and I think I'm done there and ready for any questions you might have.
Low with the fingers tapping. John, thank you so much. Such a tremendous resource for people to access. Not a question, but there was a comment acknowledging the work that Hathi had done during the pandemic with its emergency access service. So I don't know if you were directly involved in that, but it's worth a shout out that for the variety of things that Hathi does beyond just
Thank you. That is all the work of our parent organization, the HathiTrust Digital Library, but I share in thanks for all the work they did to make that happen.
As you're providing these resources, do you get any pushback from the copyright holder community in terms of providing this kind of access?
We have not at the research center. And again, that's more the domain of our parent organization, which has all the, legal responsibility for all that. Of course, we have to be cognizant of that. As I mentioned, we have a complete copy of the data here at Indiana University, and we are responsible for keeping that secure. But, that's the point of the non-consumptive nature of many of these tools, is that we can do that and not violate copyright. And, my understanding is, regardless of the copyright holders' feelings on that, the courts have decided in the favor of supporting the kind of non-consumptive research that we facilitate.
Sure. I mean, I think it's I don't know if you were on earlier when I was talking with one of the previous speakers about this, Pradeep, about the idea of data lakes, where people who are doing this kind of research want a sole entry point where they have access to a giant corpus, HathiTrust being one of the largest and most accessible of them. But the thing, is there a way, is there a direction in which we can move the community towards providing other things like Hathi that provide this kind of non-consumptive access for analytical purposes and support of text and data mining, and using Hathi as a model.
Yeah, well, I think the extracted features is something that could be standardized through efforts of groups like NISO, and we had done some earlier collaboration work with Ithaca and JSTOR that worked with extracted features data, and if the community could do some standardization around that, and then people can access those fingerprints of all the content from different sources and combine those to do their research. I think that's a very promising avenue to pursue.
Yeah, and Nathan is jumping in with you having influenced Ithaca and their extracted features and format for non-consumptive use. So you are having an impact well beyond the people who use your service. So, John, thank you so much for your talk. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and with that, we will draw today's session to a close.